Alright, so my grandpa is kind of a goofball. Well, he's more a full-blown psychopathic lunatic. A lunatic that lives in the room next to me. The entirety of our family casted us out because of the shit my grandpa pulled during his younger years. I won't really go into that, but to give you an idea, he's been an addict for most of his life and suffered everything he could have because of it. From gang violence to overdoses, from harassment to full-blown rape. It's probably better if I start from when shit really went down in not only his, but also my life. 6 years ago, when I just entered high school and my kid brother entered elementary, my grandpa got a huge cut in his forearm. For some reason, the cut never really healed properly, and at some point, mostly because of his negligence, it got infected, so the doctors had to amputate it. He didn't really seem to mind and was rather calm when we brought him to the hospital. But then, he did what he usually does. Start some random shit. He asked the nurse to give him a bag of blood for him to take home, because he said he felt dizzy and would really need it. After the nurse repeatedly told him no, he presumably started to attack her, screaming, "Just one bag, you filthy bitch. He doesn't want mine anymore, don't you understand?" Luckily, the nurse didn't sue him, for I'm sure we would have to pay for him, because my mother's heart can't bear seeing her father serve time. She probably knows that once he's in, he'll either stay there for good, or get out in a body bag. From that day onward, I kept hearing him say, "I want to go back," in the middle of the night. After a few months, he started to become stable again, even better than he was before the amputation. My mother even let him take my little brother to the park, after he kept begging her to let him spend more time with his grandsons. She accepted, but of course, both me and my mom came along to keep an eye on him. If only we did a better job. And half an hour before we were about to leave the park, both my mother and I let our guards down, and before we knew it, my little brother and my grandpa had disappeared. We called the police, and a whole operation had started, but they were both nowhere to be seen. Until my grandpa came home that night, telling us that someone kidnapped my little brother. He didn't answer any of our questions with a clear answer. The only thing he said was, "I can finally go back," making us suspect the worst. We called the cops, but as soon as my grandpa noticed, he struck my mom and made a run for it. I haven't seen him since. A few years later, I got a note in my locker that said, "It's really great here. I wish you could see it all. The Underworld is really something else. I still miss you both, you and your mom. Could you do me a favor and leave some money near the dumpster at the local coffee shop? Something like 1,000 or 2,000 will be enough. Grandpa." I made sure to keep everything about what happened to my grandpa a secret from the people at my school. So, although it's still possible they found out, it's very unlikely that this was some kind of prank. I'll tell you guys right off the bat, I didn't go to the dumpster, even if my grandpa would be there, because I'm too scared to see him again. Last year, they finally found what was left of my little brother. In the sewers, a short distance from the park we visited, a group of teenagers found him when they were trying to make a spooky vlog. The following part took me a whole week to write, because every time I tried, my finger started to go numb for some reason. His neck was chained to a wall, and his skin was pale as could be. The autopsy showed he died of chronic anemia only a month ago. His body was filled with puncture wounds, and there were empty cans of soup and other foods scattered across that part of the sewer. My grandpa was still nowhere to be seen though. Yesterday, a package arrived at our doorstep. The package had my name on it, so my mom just handed it to me without opening it. I didn't order anything recently, so I wasn't really sure if I should have opened it, but it had my name on it. So I took the package to my room and opened it. A small moment before I did, my mind sent me some eerie thoughts. Don't tell me Grandpa sent me some body part of my little brother, I thought. As soon as I opened it, my heated body started to cool down. There was a camera and a note. It read, "I hope this package reaches you well. Some punks must have found my place because I saw this camera near your little brother's body after I got back from doing shopping. I went to the Underworld as soon as I could because the police would have arrived sooner or later. Anyway, you probably know what I did to your little brother. I'm not sorry for it. He didn't want my blood anymore, so I had to find someone with the same type of blood as I. I'm sure you must be mad, but you won't be once you see how awesome this place is. I took the camera with me so you can find out yourself. He told me to never record anything, but I still did it. Fuck him. Take a look, I'm sure you'll like it. P.S. If you want to come too, meet with the man in the video around minute 4 or something. He can be pretty hard to find though. He'll tell you what he wants for the trip to the Underworld." I haven't watched the film yet, but I will, as soon as the chills stop running through my body. I watched his recordings, and I came up with 3 possibilities to explain what I've seen. Either he's someone knows, some really tech-savvy guy that put this shit together, or his lunacy is something genetic and bit by bit I'm also going insane. Or that cunt actually found something. Some really strange place. After waking up, or more like, after getting out of bed, not sleeping for the whole night, I decided I should just take a look before the curiosity consumes my whole life. There are 5 recordings. I'll give a summary of each of them. The first one starts off with him in the sewer, with 30 seconds of him aiming the camera at the floor, not realizing he already started the recording. After a swift shot of my little brother's body, he walked through the sewers. Without speaking, he climbed up a ladder, walking the dark streets of our city. A homeless man walked up to him, asking, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Do you know where I can find the supermarket?" My grandpa pulled out a knife, shocking the homeless man, who put his hands up after seeing it. "Oh, hold this camera. I'm making a film for my grandkid," he said. He gave the camera to the homeless man, who was now filming my grandpa. My God, I thought. He was wearing a dress riddled with holes, a wig and a face full of makeup, looking like something between a clown and an old woman. "Hey kid, what do you think? Pretty fancy, huh?" he said as the homeless man's hands were shaking the camera. My grandpa hit the homeless man with his stump, yelling, "Don't move, damn it. I'm going back to the Underworld today. I'm so excited. I can finally show someone how great it is there. I'll be meeting my buddy." My grandpa stopped talking after the homeless man started to shake again. He lunged towards the man fiercely. I wasn't really sure what happened, but I'm guessing he took a stab at him because he started to scream for help, after which my grandpa started running with the camera. A minute later, he showed a man in the far distance with a black hat and a tall coat. "That's him. Remember him, kid. I'm going to put the camera in my pocket now." The camera was able to film the waist of the man through a hole in his dress. I'm guessing he walked up to the man as I could hear them talking. The sound was muffled, but I heard my grandpa's voice clear enough. "I got one more jar," he said. After some altercation, he started begging the man. Please take it. It's all I have." I couldn't really hear what the man was saying. The words I could make up were, "We've got enough of that. I need valuable. Maybe..." My grandpa started to say, Of course, a bunch of time, after which he got something from his other pocket and started to shake. The camera's vision got blocked by the dresses cloth for a second, after which my grandpa asked, "This much?" The man didn't say anything. And after some movement, my grandpa gave a short scream. I'm guessing he wanted to scream more, because he crouched down for a minute or two, shaking on the ground. My eyes were totally hooked on the camera, as I felt my hands were beginning to sweat. He stood up after some time and straightened his dress with his still trembling hands. I could see through the hole again. He handed the man something. "This will sell very well," the man said, as he took what could only be my grandpa's sexual organ, slowly leaking blood, flowing down his arm. I'm going to be completely honest. I had to clean a lot of vomit off the camera after seeing that part. They started walking, but after some time, my grandpa fell and the camera didn't pick up much sight nor sound. The next recording started with my grandpa's face, now without makeup, looking in the camera. "Hey there, the transaction went through. I'm waiting for my buddy to come pick me up. I'm going to put you in my bag for now. Don't worry, you haven't seen shit yet." He kept the camera rolling, but for a whole hour, I couldn't hear or see anything extraordinary, other than my grandpa giggling like a maniac. After a loud yell, one that seemed more like a scream of joy than of pain, he started digging through his bag, searching for the camera. We're here, he said, as he showed me a wooden room without any windows. I figured out it was a basement, for he started to move up some stairs. He was in some kind of old-fashioned house. He exited the house and showed me a street full of people with different colored hair. All of them were young, I'm guessing between 20 and 30 years old. Most of the girls were quite good looking, and the men were also handsome. "Hey, how much time for sunrise?" my grandpa asked out loud, not really talking to anyone specific. No one reacted. "When will it be sunrise?" he yelled. A man started walking up to him. "Calm down, old man. Like 2 minutes or something. What's that in your hand? Did you bring something new?" he yelled, after which everyone started to gather around my grandpa. He raised his hand and showed me all of the people around him, together with a wider view of the village. The village was in some kind of desert, and the houses were all made of wood. He started laughing like a madman again. Yes, I brought you something amazing from Earth. But first, I need to see the sun," he yelled to the crowd. "Look closely," he whispered to the camera, as he pointed his camera to the moon. I kept thinking, what the fuck, through every minute of his recordings. But after he showed me the sky, I really started to flip out. He pointed the camera at the moon for a minute, and then it happened. The moon exploded, sending a wave of light throughout the whole sky. The sky turned completely dark for a few seconds, after which, out of the same spot the moon was in, a ball of light appeared with a great bang, turning night into day. The sun seemed the same as ours, but everything around it didn't, for wherever my grandpa was at that moment, the sky there was not blue, but a mellow shade of pink. Do you understand now? I had watched the explosion over and over again for at least 20 times before I move on to the third recording. I was hesitant at first, but I think it's time I introduce myself officially. My name is Basil Porton, but I go by Porter, even by my mother, since I am the only one left in our house that still carries my father's last name. I'm a teenager, born in the US, but my mother is British, and after the family casted us out, we moved to East England. You already know a lot about my grandpa, Warwick Murrow, also known as Matt Murr. Now, where was I left? The third recording was a walk through the village. My grandpa was quite famous in the strange village he called the Underworld. People would wave at him wherever he went, and a lot of people would come up and talk to him, mostly about Earth, like it was some kind of foreign place to them. I wasn't sold on the fact that my grandpa was in the Underworld. Maybe he just joined some society filled with crazy people like himself. In the fourth clip, he sat down on a bench and started explaining stuff to me. He talked about how it's never too hot or too cold, about how the sun and moon change places after every 6 hours, about how there are many kinds of plants that don't exist on Earth, and about how he can finally be accepted here, as the madman he is.
Porter, I want to live here forever, but it's difficult. You see, these people, they don't starve, they don't thirst, they don't even bleed as we do. But I, as I hate to accept it, am very human. The only reason I have to go back to Earth is because at some point, my food and water runs out, and I have to go back before I'm too weak to stand on my legs. Besides, I can't do my job if I can't think clearly. Why don't you join me and bring some food and beverages while you're at it? And bring a lot.
It was the first time my grandpa ever said he had any kind of job. I wondered what he was doing. He took a sip of his favorite drink. Although most would expect it to be something alcoholic, my grandpa loves to drink buttermilk. Personally, I hate it, but yeah, we don't have a lot in common anyway.
The price to enter the Underworld is expensive, but worth it,
he said.
My buddy is looking for parts of us humans. He sells them to certain people. In return, he gives a ticket to the Underworld. At first, he only wanted our family's blood. He said that we were famous here, and that collectors were willing to pay huge sums of money to get a jar. After a few years though, the market changed. They wanted other pieces of us. Still worth it though,
he said with a chuckle. I could never forgive my grandpa for the things he has done, but I was content with letting things end here. For all I care, he can chop himself up until the day he dies. Living there instead of here is probably for the greater good.
I'm going to make one more recording before I call it quits. I have things to do. I'm a busy man in the Underworld,
he said. Porter, dinner's ready, my mom shouted from downstairs. Just a minute, I shouted back. I started the last recording. I might as well finish it before I go eat dinner, I thought.
I'm going to see my boss. He's kind of a lunatic, but he lets me live, so I can't really complain,
he said. What the fuck? I thought. Lets me live. Porter! Just a minute, Mom, I yelled back. My grandpa started walking through the desert until he reached a well.
Hold on, Porter. I need my hand now,
he said and put the camera in his pocket. I assume he climbed down the well because when I could see again, he was in some kind of underground place with torches on both sides of the walls leading the way deeper down.
We're almost there,
he whispered. With each step, the tension rose. My body started heating up, but after sweating profusely throughout all the clips, I had no moisture left to excrete. Then, he stopped moving, just as my heart stopped beating for a bit. Because in front of him was the most ominous and eerie-looking being I had ever seen, inciting a terror within me I never knew I could feel. Long white hair going down to his knees, a mouth with teeth that would put envy in every predator, eyes big as the moon, but mostly filled with the white, with only a speck of black the size of a pea in the middle, looking straight at my grandpa. Above all else though, a smile, from ear to ear. And no, not the expression, but literally, from ear to fucking ear. He was not human, only humanoid.
Welcome back, friend,
the being said, with more air coming out of his giant mouth than sound. My grandpa fumbled with the camera, and then cut the footage. After the video stopped, I stared at the camera for a few minutes. After I got to my senses, I washed my face and walked downstairs for another horror to meet me. One that was more personal. I walked down steadily, halted quickly as an image burned itself into my memory, never to be forgotten. There lay the only person, the only one I had left. My mother, on the ground with a gigantic cut in her lower abdomen, about to pass out, bleeding steadily. In front of her, an open door with a trail of blood leading outside. Porty, it was him. Call the police, she said, after closing her eyes. I immediately took my phone, dialed 911, realized I wasn't in the US, and changed it to 999. I walked up to my mother with the phone squeezed between my shoulder and cheek. I was ice cold, focused on keeping her alive. I wasn't going to lose her. Not now. The smell of meatloaf had filled the house as I started applying pressure on her wound. The doctors told me her uterus had been cut out of her body, and that she was in a critical yet stable state at the moment. The police asked me questions, already suspecting someone, even though he had gone missing all these years. Should I show them the footage? It doesn't really prove anything, even if they believe me. For how long can they protect us? How long can they guard us from him? Do I even want them to take care of this? Until now, I had accepted everything he had done to us, mostly because I had no choice. But it seems that this won't end until I end him. The hunter must become the prey. Seeing that he stole a part of my mother, he must be on his way to the Underworld now. I have to find the mystery man, because only he can lead me there. I went to the place where I saw my grandpa meet him. He wasn't there, so I went looking everywhere throughout the city, looking for this man, the only person that could lead me to my grandpa. I looked for 2 whole days as hopelessness started creeping in on me. What am I thinking? I can't do this. I'm still just a kid that hasn't even been in a single fight yet. I can't kill him even if I have to. Maybe he won't come for us again. Yeah, I'm sure this was just the last time. I thought, defeated. The tears started rolling down my cheeks. Of course he'll come back, and I won't be able to do anything. Strands of my hair were falling on the ground and my shoulders. I really am nothing like him, I thought. If anything, my grandpa always took what he wanted. He always acted however he wanted to. He acted as if the world belonged to him, which made him unstoppable. I am not like that. I stayed home for a week, visiting my mother in the hospital every night. After a week had passed, I forced myself to go to school. Maybe it'll get my mind off of things, although I really didn't want to see my friends or teachers at this moment of my life. I walked the empty halls of my school in the early morning. I moved my body, not knowing where I was going, until I realized that out of habit, my feet had brought me to my locker. I opened it slowly, after which a note fell out. I leaned down and picked it up. The moment I touched the paper, I remembered how my grandpa had left me a note all those years ago. A chill went down my spine as I picked it up and took a look. Hey dude, the boys and I haven't heard from you in a while, and you aren't answering our calls, messages, or opening the door. We're going on a camping trip. Yesterday and the day after tomorrow, it seems. So, we're going to skip school for a few days. If you're down, you can join us. Just give me a call, little bitch. Matthew. I chuckled for a bit. I forgot I had a social life after everything that happened to me. It sure is a more pleasant note than I had expected. My grandpa's note those years ago. What did it say again? I tried to remember. It's really great here. I wish you could see it all. The Underworld is really something else. Could you do me a favor and leave some money near the dumpster at the local coffee shop? The coffee shop? Of course, I thought. I had come at an impasse. Give up and live my life to the fullest, enjoying it as much as I can. Or try to serve justice. And above all, revenge. I stood there with my head against the lockers, trying to think. But not a lot of thinking was going on. For the image of my mother laying there on the ground, The image of her in her hospital bed was blocking every thought I tried to form. Do I even deserve to live if I don't even try to protect my loved ones? Fuck you, I thought. I'm going to end you and live the life I deserve to live. I started walking with the fire burning in my eyes. Am I brave? Am I wise? Or am I just foolish? Truth is that it doesn't matter. I will be whatever I need to be to make sure he stops breathing in this world and the one he has made me go through hell for. I had a lot to think about before this post. I don't know if what I'm going to do is right, but I have to see this through to the end. The world has been quite silent the past time, I thought, as I exited the bus. Here it is, the Littler, the coffee shop my grandpa wrote about. I did a Google search before coming, but I couldn't find anything about the mystery man, nor any information about this coffee shop. I wasn't going to enter the shop. I just had to get to the back. Looking around the shop, I found a small path that seemed to go where I wanted to be. I made my way, but was quickly stopped by a warm hand that gripped my shoulder. "Can I help you?" a voice asked. I turned around and saw a mountain of a man standing behind me. He was old, had glasses, with gray hair, slicked back like an Italian mobster. "Oh, I work here. I just wanted to check something in the back." "You don't work here." I do." "Kid," he whispered. "I own this place." Great, I thought. How easy can I fail the first step? I guess I'll just have to come back when he isn't looking. "He's there. But why would a kid like you want to see him?" he said, shocking me swiftly with his words. He knows? I thought. Oh crap, what do I do? "You shouldn't associate with people like him. Trust me," he followed. "I have to. There is something important I need to do," I said, looking him deep in his eyes. "Fair enough. I can only warn you, I suppose," he said, easing his grip on my shoulder. I kept on walking until he said, "Revenge is merely a march to one's own grave." His words struck me hard, but mentally I had already passed that point of doubt. I passed the corner, and there he stood, the mystery man, my grandpa's buddy, leaning against the coffee shop's wall. "Can I help you?" he asked upon seeing me. "I'm Warwick Murrow's grandchild," I responded. He stopped leaning and straightened his back. "Oh," he said. "Porter, right? He has talked about you a few times." I cut straight to the chase and asked, "What do you need me to do to get me to the Underworld?" "Tone it down a notch. I don't want the whole neighborhood to know. I'm guessing your Gramps told you about it." "Something like that." "Listen, I'm not a bad guy, so let me make things clear for you. You don't want to go there. I'm sure your Gramps told you all kinds of fun stories about the place. But your kind won't survive that place." "What do you mean my kind?" I asked. "Nothing. Just go home, kid. I'm not going to help you do anything." Luckily, I was prepared. "If you don't tell me, I'm going to tell everyone about you in the Underworld." "Good luck. Do you think anyone will believe you?" "What if I show them proof?" I said with a smile. "Proof?" he asked. "My grandpa made recordings of both you and the Underworld." His eyes widened as he looked at me with an expression of pure surprise. "You're bluffing." "He traded his penis for a trip," I said. The man started to sweat profusely. I got him right where I wanted, I thought. "So you want a trip, huh?" he asked. "I want a trip and answers," I responded. "I don't know, kid. I could just kill you right now, you know?" His intimidation didn't work on me though. If I don't return within an hour, my partner will post the videos on the internet for all to see. I bluffed, standing as tall as I could, not taking my eyes off him for a second. I was prepared, but not to this extent. Alright, can we go to a different place and discuss this further? He asked. We'll do this right here, right now, I said. He started to laugh, but I still kept looking at him, as stern as I could. Alright kid, you got me, he said. You're not going to the Underworld after you hear everything I'm about to say to you anyway. To be honest, I'm partially to blame for everything that happened. People like me take people like your Gramps to what you call the Underworld. It is, if you believe it or not, a real place filled with people that seem like humans, but are something very different. Just like Earth, our kind has good, but also bad people just living their everyday life. The gates to these worlds are guarded by people like me. I am a little bit different though. You see, humans are quite a rarity in our world. So there are a lot of people who pay huge amounts of money to have their pieces. So you make people give you body parts to go to this magical kind of place. No, not exactly, kid. I don't make them do anything. It's all their free will. If I don't recruit regular people, I scout people who are evil, like your Gramps. So you think of this as some kind of punishment? I don't really get what you're trying to do, because my grandpa wanted to go to this place. He killed my brother and attacked my mother. He said, and took a pause. Kid, here's the thing. No one is supposed to come out of that place alive. What do you mean? I asked. Your grandpa is the first client that has ever come back. I sent these evil people to the Underworld to be hunted down by an accomplice of mine and make a few extra bucks off their body parts. My accomplice sells the body in Alum, and I sell the single body parts they pay me to my partners here on Earth. For some reason, your grandpa keeps finding a way to come back, and I have no way of reaching my accomplice. I just keep accepting his payment, hoping that he finally gets killed this time. Alum, I asked. If you call this place Earth, that place is what we call Alum. His story seemed to make sense. It would explain a lot. It's a lot to take in, I said. See, you don't want to go there, he said. Why did he go for my brother and mother? I asked. Well, in order not to take body parts of random people and to cause any national panic, I fool my clients by telling them only the parts of their bloodline are acceptable because they are special, even though they really aren't. Because they usually give the first part of their own body, and because they usually die after their first trip anyway. This usually doesn't cause any trouble. Usually. Why? Why didn't you just kill him here? He sighed. Kid, this world, just like mine, is a rough place. I was making money because of your Gramps. Although I didn't want to get involved, I'm not going out of my way to save people I don't know. You can blame me all you want, but at the end of the day, it was your Gramps that chose to hurt you and your family. I never forced him to do anything, alright? My eyes started to water, but I wasn't going to let myself cry. Why don't you just give me the recordings and we can just forget about all this? He asked. He was nowhere near a good person in my eyes, but he is honest. I'll get you the recordings, but I'm still going to the Underworld. Consider the camera my payment. Fine, he said, gave me a few pats on my back, and said, let's go get your camera. We started to walk to my home without exchanging a single word on the way. I was deep in thought the whole way through, thinking about everything the mystery man had told me, about the Underworld and the people that inhabit it. Although I was going there with a grim mission, I couldn't help but get excited. We entered the house. You can sit in the living room. I'll go get the camera upstairs, I said. I don't think you need to do that, he said while standing in the open doorway. He put his hand on my shoulder, then moved it to my neck and gripped it. "Sorry, kid. It's just business," he said. I looked at his eyes, like the naive kid I am, and at that moment, I realized what kind of grand mistake I had made. I'm about to die. But at that moment, through the light that shone out of my doorway, an arm reached across, not my own, but the mystery man's neck. He pulled him away from me while choking him. He turned around and got inside, kicking my frozen body out of the way. I fell on my ass and kept watching him choke the mystery man for a few seconds, until he stopped struggling and passed out. It was the owner I had seen in front of the coffee shop, the one that tried to stop me. "I warned you," he said. I know. I won't be around to save you next time. Stay away from Alem and stay away from this man. No, I'm going. Are you out of your mind? He yelled. Listen, I don't know you. Thank you for saving me, but I'm still going to Alem to kill him. That man is the only way I can get there. I'll just talk to him tomorrow with a different strategy or something. You can't stop me, old man. He started to get angry as the wrinkles under his eyes started to deepen. 3 days, he said. What? I asked. You get 3 days to think about it. After the 3 days, if you still want to go, meet me at the Littler at midnight, he said. Oh, okay, I said, surprised. But first, I need you to give me the recordings. No, if I do, I won't have any leverage on that man over there. I won't be able to go. He walked up to me and grabbed both my arms and squeezed. Listen to me. Alem will be the death of you. If knowing this, you still want to go, I'll at least make sure you get there alive. But I have to put the safety of my kind first. So you either trust me and give me the recordings, or I'll go get them myself. He loosened his grip, and we started to move upstairs. I handed him the camera. He watched the first 2 clips, and then put it in his pocket. 3 days, he said. I nodded, and we started moving downstairs again. To my horror, the mystery man had disappeared. But before my body could panic, the coffee shop owner quickly said, Don't worry about him. As I had already put my trust in him, I continued to do so. He gave me 3 days to reconsider my choice. But those 3 days will only be used to prepare my plan. My plan to kill Grandpa. First, I need a gun. A gun. A gun. A gun in England shouldn't be that hard, right? I thought, eating my breakfast at 2 o'clock like I always do. Even with Mom gone, I still eat Raisin Bran. I'm such a baby. I guess I'll buy some Cocoa Puffs when I go to the supermarket tomorrow. Well, let's see. Guns are illegal in this country. I don't know anyone that has any gang or mob ties, and I got about 26 pounds. Let's go look for some shady figures, I guess. At 9 o'clock p.m., I went to the park a few blocks away from my house. Sat down on a bench filled with Sharpie drawings and waited. This park is usually packed with the dangerous sort. 3 hours later, at around 12:30, they started coming. A gang of 5 boys, on average probably around 5 or 4 years older than I am. They started to approach me, probably because I was staring at them the whole time. With each step they took with their fancy brand shoes, my heart started to beat faster and faster. Hey there, kinda late for a kid like you to be outside, isn't it? One of the boys said. Yeah, don't you have school or something tomorrow? Another followed. Alright kid, just beat it, we're going to sit here. I need One of them grabbed me by the arm and pulled me off the bench. Come on now, chop chop. Just say it, Porton. Just say it, I thought, but I still merely looked at them, and sensing from their faces, they were starting to get annoyed. Oi, fuck off before we beat the shit out of you, one of them shouted. I need a gun, I finally said. The group started to look at each other in confusion. What did you say? One of them asked. Do you know where I can get a gun? I said. One of them grabbed me by the collar and started moving me out of the park. But one of his friends, red-haired with a shabby-looking beard, stopped him, saying, "Guns aren't free, you know. How much you got on you?" I couldn't be honest. I don't really have an idea about the prices of weapons, but I'm pretty fucking sure 26 pounds won't cut it. "I got 1,000 at home," I said. "Well, well, well," the ginger said. "Quite the grin you got there, buddy. Why don't you bring it so I can get you a deal?" "Show me the guns first," I said. "I'll trade you this one for the 1,000, he said, pulling up his sweater, showing a silver-colored gun, the kind of which I have no idea of. Here's my chance, I thought, and lunged for the gun in his belt. There was no way I could get a gun in a clean way. I just have to grab it and make a run for it. My palms touched the gun. It was warm, heated by the boy's body temperature. My heart raced like Speed Racer as adrenaline was rushing through my veins. Turn and run, I thought. Turn and run. They were battle-hardened, for two of the boys reacted so swiftly that even though I was just a teenager on his own, they'd never let their guards down. One of them hit me in the head, followed by the other wrapping his palms around my wrist, making sure I wasn't able to pull the gun out of his friend's pants. My index finger reached for the trigger, and I tried to pull it, holding my breath, anticipating a blast that would most likely blow the ginger's dick a way he wasn't used to. Lucky for him, and I guess for me too, the gun had its safety on. The one holding my wrist cocked his leg backwards and launched a knee in my guts, forcing every bit of fluid my body contained to spill on the ginger's fancy shoes. I fell down on my own vomit as the world stopped spinning for a moment. After a barrage of kicks to my sides, the boys helped me up and put me on the bench I was just sitting on. Alright, that's enough. Calm down. I'm not hurt," the ginger said. He lifted my hanging head by pulling my head towards the night sky. "What the hell were you thinking?" he asked, giving me a slap on the face with the palm of his hands. I need a gun," I uttered. "Why do you need a gun?" he asked. "He's going to kill me. Kill my mother." "Dude," one of the boys said. "Let's just leave him here. Fucker is probably crazy or something." "Look at him," the ginger said. "Look at his eyes. Look what he tried to do. He might very well be insane, but no fool would do this without a good reason." "What the fuck do you want, man? You want to adopt him or something?" he asked, laughing. "Kid, you're not getting a gun. Not off of us, that is. But trust me, all of us here believe that sometimes, some people just have to disappear." My eyes started dropping tears, but I felt no sadness or humiliation in any sense. I just felt like crying, I suppose. I did just almost bite the dust. Maybe some of it got in my eyes, I thought in the midst of my interrogation. "Listen, does the person you need gone know that you want them gone?" he asked. I shook my head, indicating a no as answer. "Well, I guess you're lucky. Cherries are in season right now," he said with a smile, whispering a list of instructions into my ear. Granted, a consolation prize. I walked home defeated, if it could be called walking, in the state that I was in. Never in my life was I beat up this bad. Actually, this was the first legit time I got beat up. Television and movies are right. It fucking sucks ass. Well, I guess at least Mom didn't get to see me in this state. I wouldn't want her to be worried. I got home, instantly making my way to the living room couch. The stairs can wait until tomorrow. I closed my eyes, trying to comfort myself, thinking, you only have 3 days. Well, of course you can't find a gun in 3 days. You tried your best. Don't be sad. You're just a normal kid. Guns are for criminals and police officers. It would be pretty insane if a kid like you would be able to find a gun so quickly, right? What kind of mad world would you be? Would you be living in? Wait a second. I got up, barely, for my body had already prepared itself to fall asleep when my bottom had reached the soft cushions of the couch. I made my way up the stairs, holding the railing tight with every single step. I didn't enter my own room, but the one next to it. The one that belonged to him. I hadn't entered this room in years, ever since my little brother disappeared. My God, it was a freakish mess inside. Mom never bothered to clean it, I guess. It probably reminded her of everything that had happened. After an hour or two of searching, in a secret department in his desk, I found it. A 6-shooter and a box of bullets. Of course, a man like him would have a gun. I hope he likes the taste of lead. Fired from his own trusty sidearm. I'm going to need a lot of water, but I don't want to carry too much either. Dilemmas. I pushed the cart towards the fruit aisle. He didn't tell me to get sweet or sour cherries. It didn't matter anyway. I'll get sour, I guess. Okay, let me think. I got some snacks, I got some drinks, I got some canned food, just in case I'll be there for a long time. I just need some buttermilk and a non-see-through bottle, and we're done. I walked to the checkout. My body was covered with bruises. Even breathing caused me stings of pain. With every step, my eyes would twitch from the sting. My body was tender as can be, like a juicy steak. My stomach started to grumble. My God, a steak would be so good right now. I put my items on the counter. The cashier was a cute-looking girl. Short hair, light brown eyes, with a please kill me now look on her face. I let out a short laugh because of my thoughts. The people around me gave me weird looks, whilst the girl gave me a small smile, melting my heart in an instant. My face got hot, and I'm sure I was blushing. A girlfriend would be nice though. I never had one, now that I think about it. Focus, Porter. Now is not the time. You're a man on a mission, I said to myself as the person in front of me left, which left only the girl and I at the counter, as no one had queued behind me yet. That'll be 28 pounds and 39 cents, she said after scanning my groceries. I'm $2 short. Let me see what I can cut, I said. Oh wait, it's 26.39, she said, ignoring the screen that said 28.39. I'm still 39 cents short. Can you take one of the cans? She took a look at me that practically forced my dense mind to realize what she was doing. Oh, I said, and gave her the 26 pounds. Thanks, I whispered as I put the groceries in the plastic bag. In a different world, maybe this would be the start of something great. But unfortunately, I'm already on my way to one. I can't let anything put my mind off it. Besides, I'm too shy to make a move anyway. Even though the coffee shop owner probably won't like it, I'll be bringing my mom's camera with me to record everything I can in Alem. Although, on a murder mission, I'm sure I'll have many moments I'd like to eternalize, I hope. With all my money spent, I went home, spending the rest of the day preparing my arsenal, whilst imagining myself pulling the trigger on my grandpa. The only thing I'm doubting at this point is my ability to be as cold-blooded as him. I didn't always hate him, you know? Although he was always the way he is now, he was kind of the father figure after my dad left my mom when she was pregnant with my little brother. I don't really remember a lot about the time my dad was around, other than having a lot of arguments with my grandpa. My mom very rarely talks about him and his reason to abandon us. But I'm guessing one day he just had enough of my grandpa's bullshit and decided to leave. I mean, look at me. I'm practically going to turn myself into a murderer because of him. The following night was non-existing. Although the sky turned dark and the hours were silent, it still made no difference to me, for I spent every minute consumed by my own thoughts. A day later, at 10 p.m., 2 hours before our meeting time, I decided I should make my move to the coffee shop. I stood there, across the street, observing the shop and waiting, counting the seconds, the minutes and hours, who all felt as slow as snails. People started leaving the shop, first one by one, then in groups of various sizes. Lastly, a pink-haired girl left the coffee shop, after which No one followed. At 11:43 p.m., the owner stepped out and took a look at me, saying, "I see you've chosen to come," prompting me to walk towards him. "I've come to settle some personal matters. I hope you understand," I said. From the path I had used to get to the back of the coffee shop, the mystery man appeared with a blank look on his face. "How you've been, kid?" he asked. My eyes widened. Hey, I said, thinking, should I be scared? I mean, he did try to kill me. Don't tell me this is a trap. "Calm down," the owner said upon noticing my angst. "If you're scared of him, you should be. But I'm here to make sure he doesn't kill you." "Stupid old timer. Always has to meddle with my business," the mystery man said, with his hands in his pockets. "We're going on a trip, but I'll have to make sure you don't know where we're going," the owner said. "I'm going to blindfold you. To make sure you don't trip or something, you can hold on to my arm if you want to. Before we blindfold him, he should know my condition. I'm quite sure this kid thinks he's getting a free pass," the mystery man said. "You're not actually going to do that to a kid, are you?" the owner said. "I don't discriminate. It'll be unfair for all those who had to pay for a trip through my gate, and it would slander my reputation," the mystery man said and started walking up to me. "Listen, kid, the cost of a trip is a body part, chosen by whatever the market wants. Do you still wish to go?" He was right, I thought. I actually thought I was going to be allowed to pass the gate without payment. I guess my test of courage had already started. This was probably my last chance to go home unscathed. "It's been mostly talk before this, Porter. Show him what you're made of," I thought to myself as a drop of sweat fell from my forehead. "Yes, I'm still going," I answered. The mystery man's face showed every bit of annoyance he got towards me. I'm sure he didn't expect me to accept. I turned my head to the owner, who gave me a disappointed look, judging the very essence of my choice to go. He seemed like a wise man, but I don't care what he thinks. I must do this. "What body part do I owe you?" I asked. "I'm not telling you," the mystery man said, giving me a big fuck you for irking him. "The trip will take about 5 hours, after which I'll extract the payment. Upon me receiving it, you may go through the gate," the mystery man said. How about the healing process?" I asked. "Don't worry about it," he said, making me worry about it. The owner put the blindfold on my eyes, making it as tight as possible. Before I knew it, I heard a car pull up, with the hands of the owner helping me get in. After several hours, my blindfold was taken off of me. My vision was blurry, slowly fixing itself on the image of the mystery man sitting in front of me on a wooden chair. The room was filled with a bitter smell, making me gag for a second. I looked around me with squinting eyes. I was in a room covered in dust and mold, beige and brown, with dark spots on the floor and walls, of what I can only imagine as dried blood. "Last chance, fancy pants," he said with a pitiful face. I've never been as scared as this, I thought. Do you have anesthetics?" I asked. "Would you like that?" he asked. I nodded as tears started flowing off my cheeks and mucus started dripping from my most likely red nose. "Please," I begged. The mystery man put his palm on his forehead. "Jeez, kid, you're not making it easy on me, are you? How about we call this whole thing off and let you go home?" "No," I shouted, wiping my tears. "I'm sorry for crying. I can do this. Just get on with it. I'll put you to sleep, alright? Just remember, you will never get this shit back. Capiche?" I nodded as he pulled out a small box and prepared a needle. After insertion, the world faded slowly as my eyelids got heavier. "I'm coming for you, Grandpa. Just wait." I opened my eyes to an excruciating pain with the mystery man and the owner holding onto my shoulders. "It's over, kid. You did good. Try not to waste the rest of your body in Alem. Lucky for you, where you're going, you won't even notice that it's gone," the mystery man said. I wanted to speak, but I couldn't. He gave me a mirror and said, I'll give you a few minutes to clean yourself before you go. I took a look in the mirror. My chin, and pretty much everything beneath it, was covered in blood. I slowly unhinged my jaw with a pain that almost prohibited every bit of movement in the area beneath my nose. My eyes had dried up, for I had already accepted everything that was coming my way. Neither sweet nor bitter words will ever leave my mouth again. In the mirror, between my red-stained teeth, stood the absence of an organ that broke my ability to ever French kiss a girl, curse my grandpa, or tell my mom I love her. As I will leave Earth after a few minutes, with my bruised body, missing tongue, and an acute anemia, I decided to post this part via my cell phone before I left. I'll make sure to capture everything I can with my camera. Until we meet again. I'm going to miss you guys. Wish me luck, because I can use every bit of it. Today, a package arrived at my coffee shop's doorstep, containing the username and password to this account, together with a note. The note is from the boy that recently entered Alum through the gate of my pier. I didn't get his name at the time, but after reading the posts on this account, he seemed to go by Porter. I'm not very fond of the fact that the kid told all you people about everything that happened, as the existence of our kind should be kept a secret from most of you. Nevertheless, he provided no damning proof, so I guess there is no reason for me to worry. The package contained a camera, and Porter wished for me to tell you people about what is on it. I was hesitant at first, but I agree with the message he wants to pass on to all of you, so I might as well comply. I'll tell you the story as Porter wanted me to tell you, with the help of a letter explaining his emotions at every minute of footage. I woke up in the same room my grandpa showed in the second clip he recorded. The first thing I did was examine my body, for the aches and pain I entered with were somehow gone. The bruises on my body were still there, but they didn't hurt me. I opened my mouth and tried to feel it, but it was still gone. To be honest, I was happy he didn't take an arm or a leg. That would have made things way more difficult for me. I opened my bag and took out my grandpa's gun. I had loaded it the day before. I squeezed the gun between my belt and waist on my backside. I suppose it's time to go, I thought, and made my way upstairs. The stairs were creaking with every step I took. When I reached the top, almost instantly, a voice called out to me. "Oh my, another visitor," she shouted. It was a blonde-haired girl with purple eyes, looking with excitement as she made a little hop into the air. "Shh, don't yell," I said. Wait. I touched the inside of my mouth again. My tongue was still missing, but I was speaking as I always did. In the midst of my confusion, the girl held my hands and started swinging them. "Oh my god, you're so young," she said. "Let me go," I said, getting pissed off by her hyped-up mood. "Yes, I'm visiting. Leave me alone, please," I said, and made my way outside as she followed me, unfazed by my outburst. The dusty, desert village, just as I had seen in the footage. The sky was dark, yet the town was lighted by some kind of lamps that I hadn't seen in my grandpa's recording. I walked up to one of the lamps, but as I got closer, they weren't lamps at all. It was just light floating in the air. I tried to touch it, but I couldn't, as my hand just moved through it. "Hey everyone, we got a new visitor. He doesn't look old at all," the girl yelled throughout the village. I gave an expression of annoyance, but again, she didn't seem to care. Before I knew it, I was surrounded by the people of the village who started to touch my body whilst asking questions again and again without me being able to answer one of them. "Get off of me," I yelled, calming them down a bit. Just as my grandpa's video, the crowd was filled with, at first glance, normal people. The only difference were the odd hair in the eye colors. "Where am I?" I asked, looking at the one that stood closest to me, being the blonde-haired, purple-eyed girl that called upon the crowd. "Ari village, Midwest Alum," she said. Well, that doesn't help me at all, I thought. What country? I asked. The girl and I both stared at each other in confusion for a bit, until a hand reached for my wrist and pulled me into the crowd. "Leave him alone," he told the crowd with a grumpy voice as we moved through the horde of people. I took a look behind me and felt my backpack bump into someone, the force of the hit making him fall as people caught him just before he reached the ground. The man pulled me inside a house and shut the door. "Sorry for all the commotion. They get pretty excited when they see a new human, especially such a young one," he said, pulling a chair for me, gesturing me to sit. I put my backpack on the ground and sat down in a less than comfortable position as I felt the tip of my gun pressed against my bum. "Who are you exactly?" I asked. "I'm what they would call the village elder," he said. But after scanning him for a few seconds, I noticed that he didn't look a year over 25. "Where am I exactly?" I continued. "Far from home. Very far," he said. "Can't be that far," I said. "The people still speak English." "They don't," he said, causing a 10-second silence to erupt. What language do you think they were just talking to me in? And the language we are speaking right now," I said, thinking, do they not realize that this is English? He stood up and started looking for something in the room next to the one I was sitting in. "Ah, here it is," he said after a minute of searching, showing me a handheld mirror about the size of my head. "Take a look at it," he said. I grabbed the mirror, but my distrust stopped my hand as I was about to look into it. "You first," I said. He swiftly grabbed it and took a look at it, after which he turned it to me so fast it made me flinch. "Don't worry, it's just a mirror, I swear," he said. Trusting his words, I looked at myself in the mirror, but it really was just a mirror as far as I could tell. "Neither we nor you are speaking English right now," he said. "Try speaking into the mirror." "What do you mean?" I said, looking in the mirror. "I don't get it." "Try again. Focus on your mouth," he said. "Are you sure you're not the village's goofball?" "What?" I thought. "Are you?" I said, looking at my mouth in the mirror. "Ah. Oh. E. I. My mouth isn't moving the way it should," I thought, while I kept trying. "Oh," I said, but my lips didn't make a round hole. The man started to laugh. "What's going on?" I asked. "As I said, you're not speaking English. Weren't you wondering why you could speak with no tongue?" "Then, how are we communicating?" I asked. "You're in Alum now, kid. Everyone here switches to Sheolish, the default language." "Sheolish?" I said with a confused tone. "It's the language every free soul knows from birth. Most humans only get to speak it after their death. You're pretty lucky to experience this. Didn't you ever think how the people would speak in heaven and hell? Well, there will be no English, Chinese, Spanish or whatever. They'll all be speaking Sheolish." "I don't believe in heaven and hell," I said, looking him straight in the eyes as I put the mirror down in front of me. "Oh, well, alright. To each their own, I suppose. That's not a really common belief in this area," he said. The door opened with a loud smack. "It is where we come from," a voice shouted from behind me. My blood started to boil upon hearing that voice. That goddamn voice. The village elder saw the thirst for blood in my eyes. Upon noticing him looking at me, I collected my fury and turned around saying, "Grandpa, it's been so long." Shirtless, hair and chest full of sweaty hair, hands covered in sand and dust, a look of thirst in his eyes, both literally and figuratively. Yeah, it's my grandpa, alright. How you've been, Porty? So, you're filming your own experience in Alien as well, eh? He said, walking up to me. I see the Elder has already begun introducing you to this world. Do you two know each other? The Elder asked. I nodded, as my grandpa explained. This little brat is the child of my daughter, sweet little Basil Porter. You're like oil and water, the Elder said. Your grandkid doesn't seem nearly as eccentric as you were. Yeah, this kid is more like his dad, my grandpa said. Hey Porty, got some water for me? I didn't say anything, for I was deep in thought, thinking about my next move. I could just shoot him right now, I thought. But with all these people around me, they might not like that at all, especially since they seem to know my grandpa pretty well. Oi, Porter, my grandpa said, giving me a tap on the head. Look in my bag, there should be a lot. He grabbed my cheek with his hands, as I was about to pronounce the O. Your tongue, eh? He said. Well, you won't really have to worry about that here, but it's going to suck back on Earth. At least it's healing well. He started digging through my bag, chugging a bottle of water as soon as he found one. My God, that's refreshing. Too bad it's already gone lukewarm. What's this? He asked, showing my non-see-through bottle. Buttermilk, I said with a poker face. Porter, he shouted, grabbing the attention of the Elder and every person in the mob that had gathered outside the house. Porter, you're so sweet, he said, almost crying. It's not for you, I said. Don't drink it. His expression dropped tremendously. Give me half. He started to bargain. No, I said. I brought that for myself. You can't have any. I'm sorry. I just got excited for a bit. Really, like buttermilk. Well, if you're planning on saving it, you should keep it cold before it spoils. You're right, I said. Is there some kind of refrigerator? I asked the Elder. The Elder looked at me with wide eyes and a smile. Refrigerator? He asked. Don't bother, Porty. Different place, different rules, Grandpa said. Where's Yuzdo? He asked the Elder. Probably went home. He was working on some project the last time I saw him. Let's go, my grandpa said. With a mob of people, we walked throughout the village, stopping at the corner, the last house before a grand desert field that seemed to go nowhere. Inside the house, my eyes feasted on a mighty being. A dragon, I whispered to myself. Well, it was meant to look like a dragon. In actuality, it was the sculpture of a dragon, made out of the last thing I would imagine someone sculpting in this place. Ice. Do you like it? Someone asked in a raspy voice, wearing a pair of small glasses with his blue hair in a ponytail. Yes, it looks amazing, I said. Rumors say a dragon has been spotted in the far north. How awesome is that? He asked, looking dreamy at his creation. Very, I said, still not used to all the wonders of this new world. Yeah. Spare me the fantasy talk, Yuzdo. Can you free some bottle for us? My grandpa asked, cutting straight to the room's mood. I would appreciate it if you asked me more kindly. Where are the bottles? He asked. My grandpa almost ripped the backpack off my back as he tried to give him the bottles. He walked to the corner of the room where a cloth bag lay, neatly folded. I'm borrowing this, if you don't mind, he said. Yuzdo just gave him a look, silent and stern, like an owner gives his dog when it misbehaves. One by one, Yuzdo took the bottles and placed them back again, until he got to the buttermilk bottle. Make that one extra cold, please, my grandpa said. You're not going to drink it, I said. Yeah, you'll like it more when it's really cold too. Yuzdo held the buttermilk in his hand for a few seconds longer. I didn't really understand what he was doing, but then I noticed. On the outside of the bottle, Frost started to appear as the bottle started to make cracking sounds. "What the fuck?" I whispered, with my jaw almost touching the floor. "Feast your eyes, kid," my grandpa said. "Is this kid also from Earth?" he asked, looking at my grandpa. "Yeah, he's my grandkid. Listen, Porty, the people in this world all have some special ability they can use to an extent, like fire and water and such. But it's not only restricted to elements. I even saw someone make glass. How crazy is that?" my grandpa said. I'm not going to lie. At that moment, I truly understood why my grandpa wanted to be here so much. What a world it was. Alem. It didn't justify his actions though. And so, my thoughts hadn't changed about him. "I want you to meet someone else," my grandpa said, grabbing my back, quickly walking out of the door like a kid who's about to go to the park. Before I could follow, Yuzdo grabbed my shoulder. "Be careful, kid," he said, looking in my eyes with a look that was colder than his sculpture. I nodded and left his house. "I took some water bottles for myself. I hope you don't mind," my grandpa said, showing me the cloth bag he filled. I didn't respond. "Alright everyone," he shouted to the crowd. "We're going farther east. I would appreciate it if you stop following us." The crowd shouted a bit and started scattering. "Let's go," he said again. I knew exactly where we were going. I didn't want to meet this someone at all, but I remembered from his recordings that it was deep in the desert, the perfect place for me to shoot him. So, there we were, walking in the scorching desert, just the two of us. "So, how do you like Alem?" he asked. "It's mesmerizing." "Didn't I tell you?" he said, while starting to laugh. "For some reason, those blokes on Earth make it really difficult for us to get here. Some cunts they are, right?" "Huh, yeah," I said. "That bastard gatekeeper even sent someone to kill me," he continued. My eyes twitched as I heard him say that. "Luckily, my boss killed that idiot before he could kill me. Fucking loser reaped what he sowed." "Who is this boss exactly? And what do you do for him?" I asked hesitantly. "I'm happy you asked. My boss is exactly like me. He just takes what he wants," he said, grabbing a bottle out of the cloth bag he was carrying. It was the buttermilk bottle. He opened the cap, and before he took a sip, he stopped and looked at me. "You could have had half, you know? Shouldn't have been such a greedy cunt," he said as he chugged the bottle empty. Some sand had got into it anyway. Where was I? Oh yeah, my boss. Like I said, he takes what he wants, and the thing he wants is flesh. Excuse me?" I said. "He's got some kind of disease or something. He gets really weak if he doesn't cannibalize his own kind. It's pretty weird." I was baffled by his words, but he didn't stop talking for even a second, and just continued. "So yeah, because I'm so popular, I'm really good at leading people to him so he can eat them. That's kind of what I've been doing this whole time to amuse myself. But his hunger is a lot, so every once in a while I have to figure out a way to get him a lot of people to eat. There is this one artist guy who trades like 10 of these people for a single human. He makes artwork out of human or something. It's an awesome deal if you ask me." "You're a monster," I finally managed to say to his face. "That's exactly what your dad said," he said, trembling my mind with the weight of his words clashing down from the high sky. What? I said silently. He started squinting his eyes and scratching his head. "Oh, sorry, I got a headache for a bit. When you were a kid," he eventually continued. "Back when I first started coming to this place, I wanted to snatch a nibble of your body so I could pass the gate. Your dad stopped me before I could. That fucking cunt. So eventually, I made a trap to lead him to Alem with some obvious clues. Once he figured everything out, he came to Alem. Me and my boss captured him and traded him to this artist I mentioned before. I couldn't breathe properly anymore. My eyes started to move from left to right rapidly. We were far enough. I was going to end this swiftly. But before I pulled my gun, I asked him, "How could you do all of this? Don't you feel any remorse for what you did to these people? My father, my little brother, your own daughter, for fuck's sake." Life has been really unfair to me, kid. The only way I can be happy, the only way I can be free, is if I treat others the same way. I do have to be honest. I didn't like hurting my grandson, nor my daughter. But your dad had it coming. He came closer, laid his hand on my shoulder, and whispered. He came to aim to kill me. Just like you. My senses went on overload as I could feel every drop of blood flow through my body. I pushed him off of me and jumped a step back, drawing the sweat-covered revolver and aiming it at his naked chest. He put his hand and stump in the air, but I didn't give a single fuck. It's time, I thought, and pulled the trigger, shouting, "Goodbye and good riddance." My grandpa exploded into laughter as my hand exploded into bits and pieces, scattering fingers and blood throughout the desert. You idiot. Did you really think I would leave a gun in my room for you to find? I fell on the ground. You, I uttered through the pain. You're naive, Porty. Oh, so naive. But you do have guts, I'll give you that. I'm sure you went through a lot of trouble to get this far. But sadly, I'm the winner, he said as he pulled out a gun from his pocket. I pity you, Porter. So, instead of putting you through the same hell as your dad went, I'll just give you a swift and mostly painless death. That's fair, right? Fuck you, I said, holding what's left of my hand, trying to keep my mind together through the pain and desert heat. Yeah, fuck me. Tell your dad, I said. He stopped as his eyes grew wide. He took a step back and vomited in the dry sand, sweating even more profusely than before. He took a look at me in disbelief, with his stomach acid dripping from his mouth and nose. "No way," he said. It was finally my time to laugh. If only you weren't such a piece of shit. If only you didn't take everything you wanted. If only you knew that your grandson hated buttermilk. Then you might have suspected something, I said. But you didn't even want me to drink it. You told me it was for you, damn it, he said loudly. I did, because that was the only way I could guarantee you drinking it. Because I knew that you couldn't help yourself. That you couldn't help yourself taking something that didn't belong to you. What did you do to it? He cried out, vomiting one more time as his hands started to shake. Crushed cherry pits, I said. Cyanide, he whispered, standing up and aiming the gun at me. His arms were shaking, but at this distance, I'm sure it would hit. Well played, Porty, he said. I can accept this end. Ironically, I can live with this, I thought as I looked into the barrel of the gun. At that moment though, something happened we'd both forgotten about. It wasn't the gun, it was the sun, exploding in the sky, casting darkness upon the whole desert in an instant. I wanted to move, but not only had I let my guard down and relaxed my muscles, the shock of the sky made me freeze, making me think I had already died. Then, in the darkness, the shot of a gun casted a brief light as the bullet made its way towards my skull. A moment of silence occurred, after which the moon was birthed, lighting the desert enough for us to see. And both of us saw the monstrous being between us.
I can't let you both die, Myuu. I'm sure you understand,
he said. I looked at his knee. He had taken the bullet from me, so it was spinning on top of his skin, not penetrating even a millimeter into his flesh. Boss, my grandpa said, as he fell down and started shaking on the ground. The poison had spread fastly, for he had gone into a seizure. It had only taken a few more minutes before he died. I did it, I thought. The boss crouched next to me as his silk hair was touching the bloodstained sand.
Porter, right?
He asked. I took a look at his face. He wasn't nearly as scary as in the recordings. His expression was mellow, and his mouth looked normal. His pupils were wide and far from menacing. Yes, I said.
I assume you know what your grandpa did for me. Now that he's dead, I need you to do it.
He said. You want me to lure people to their death, so you may consume them? I asked as I saw my grandpa stop moving in the background, sending the tiniest amounts of dopamine through my brain in this dire moment.
Correct,
he answered. This was the only way I could survive, the only way I could live. But would I even want to live on like that? Of course not. So I had to play it smart. Yes, I'll work for you, I answered.
Are you sure?
He asked me. I was sure about one thing. I was going to get out of this place, alive, and never come back. I'm not going to be this monster slave. Never. Yes, I'm sure. I couldn't finish my words, for he had already seen through me, as his expression changed rapidly.
You're a bad liar,
he said with an ominous tone that echoed throughout the desert, shaking me to my core as his pupils turned tiny and his mouth expanded. My glands excreted ice-cold sweat as he pointed his pale finger at my nose, sending a shock through my body as my heart took its last pump. The night turned darker as the sounds got muted. Oh boy, here I go, I thought. So, finally, I heard as I opened my eyes to a blurry vision. Hey, 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 wakey, wakey, sleepyhead, a man said. I tried to move my arms, but I couldn't. I looked around me and saw that I was strapped to some kind of wooden plank in a colorful room. What is this? Some kind of circus? I thought out loud. No, don't be silly. This is my working space. I like vivid colors, you see. They help me think more artistically, the man said. Where am I? I asked. Don't worry about that, boy, he said as he grabbed my cheeks and took a look into my mouth. Missing tongue, missing hand. Not bad. I can make something beautiful out of you, that's for sure, he said happily. What do you mean? I asked. It's hard to explain. Here, let me show you, he said and started rolling something to me, cloaked with a white cloth. I've been told you know this masterpiece of mine. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, take a look. Take a look at the masterful artworks of Jason, here for your eyes only, he started saying as he ran towards the drum set in the back of the room. He started rapidly drumming before he suddenly stopped and took the cloth of what was, I assumed to be, his artwork. The horror, the absolute horror that lay before my eyes. Had I not seen enough yet? In front of me lay a naked human, with every part of his body contorted, spinning in spirals and circles, like some kind of human cinnamon bun. His skin was as pale as snow and as smooth as could be, reflecting the dim light of the room. His head stood in the middle, but his hair covered every bit of his hanging face. Do you like it? He asked with a childish tone. It's disgusting, I said. Ugh, someone doesn't appreciate art. Besides, it's kinda rude talking about him like that. Wouldn't you agree? Why? I asked. He walked towards the middle of his artwork, shoved its hair to the side, and lifted its skull so I could take a look at its face. Don't worry, you'll be joining him very soon, he said. It took me a while to realize, for it had been so long since I had last seen him. But after seeing the birthmark on his chin, a movie of memories played in my mind. Come on, boy, say it with your chest, the man shouted. My eyes filled up as I tried again. I cried, like I cried the moment I was born. The man hurried to a box of tissues and started wiping my tears. Yeah, it's your daddy, stop crying, he said with a sad expression as he dried my face. I collected some saliva and spit it at his face. You bastard! I yelled through the room. Come on now, no need to be mean, he said as he moped. Fuck you, I said silently. I usually don't do anesthetics, but I wanted to make an exception for you. But if you keep this up, I'll change my mind, he said. I didn't say anything. I just watched my teardrops hit the floor as my head hung low, defeated as could be. Oh, come on, kid, he said. How about I do you a favor? Is there something you want? He asked. I want to go home, I responded. Anything else maybe? I got some candy if you want, he said with a smile. Looking down on the ground, I noticed the camera was still strapped to my chest. I thought I would have some great memories of my trip to Alem. How wrong I turned out to be. I want you to send this device on my chest to someone, I said. Of course. Where do you want me to send it? Earth, I said. Geez, kid, the candy is really tasty, you know. You sure you don't want that? Please, do me this one favor. He sighed. Sure, whatever you want, sweetie. And help me write a note to send as well. Hell no. One favor, kid, don't push your luck, he said. I already understood what this guy lived for, so I used that to persuade him. It'll be art, I said. His eyes started gleaming. The camera cut to black after this point, but I found another recording on the camera of what happened next. Hey, Mr. Coffee Shop owner. Porter here wanted me to send you this thing he calls a camera. So, here it is. I thought that, before I send it, I should add my creation as well. So, feast your eyes on Magna Corporis Humani. Porter. The man said as he showed me what had become of the kid. He stood naked in a spread eagle position, mounted on a silver pole. His chest was open, and his veins were outside of his body. Like the branches of a tree, they stood there, frozen in the air. His nerves as well, thinly stretched from his cut back like a blunt porcupine. His skin absent, showing every muscle on his body. His face in a permanent smile, smiling to the camera, eerily. But his eyes, I'm guessing the artist could do nothing to change his eyes. Because, although open, they looked down on the ground, portraying pure sadness. He had seen many things at such a young age, and met a fate as unfair and cruel as they come. His eyes cried out a single word. Why? In the middle of his chest, his heart, still beating. Although horrifying, heinous and outright inhumane, I would be lying if it wasn't absolutely beautiful. God has blessed the humans with a body that shines its perfection through every inch of it. Let this be a lesson to all of you. There is a saying that goes, before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. Although a cliché, there are a few words wiser. If your journey includes a trip to Alem though, remember that merely dying could be a luxury you might not be granted. Stay where you were made to stay. Anywhere but Alem. Listen to your conscience and those wiser than you. For Porter was warned many times, but was too stubborn to heed, blinded by his own desires. From the bottom of my heart, I wish that you make the right choices this decennium and for the rest of your life. Porter was no special person. In essence, he was just like you. We all have our troubles, some bigger than others, and our happiness depends on our way of dealing with them. So, act wisely and help those around you who struggle to an extent. They can't deal without you. But above else, avoid Alem and those that come from there. For there is a reason why you humans dubbed us demons.